Okay, we'll call the meeting to order for the Superintendent Screening Process Committee. We've been holding on because we have one member that must have had an emergency that's not here, but we're not going to wait any longer. Amanda Lambert is missing. She's a parent from East Brookfield and a teacher, I believe, in the Quabbin school system. I'm going to ask everybody, starting down with Mr. Nordquist, to just introduce yourself.
Kurt Nordquist.
Michelle Grant.
Angela Napton.
Tracy Jeffries.
Kevin Hayes.
Charlie O'Connor.
Julie Serpent.
And Martha Berthium is going to be the confidential secretary for the screening committee. Just as a matter of public information, so that those watching at home will understand the makeup of the committee. Mr. Nordquist is here as a member of the school committee. Ms. Jeffries is here, and her expertise is in human resources.
Human resources.
And she works for a local corporation and has done that for some 10-plus years. Angela Napkin is a member of the school committee. Michelle Grant is a teacher at Lake Street School for 8 years, Michelle? 9 years?
Going on 8, yep.
8 or 9 years. Charlie O'Connor is former assistant city manager for the city of Worcester and town manager for Auburn, Massachusetts. Julie Supinat is our business manager, and Martha Berthium is our long-term secretary at the school. As I had said previously, there was a pool created by names that were submitted to the chair by members of the school committee. Then the chair selected from that pool and had the current committee ratified by the full board. So that's where we got to where we are tonight. We also have with us School Counsel Dean Moskis, who will speak to us in a little bit and explain to us all the legal ramifications and the pitfalls that we need to avoid. I've passed out to you a letter from the committee thanking those of you that have stepped forward to serve. We've also included for you the updated brochure that we'll be using in the recruiting process. That brochure was put together by Mass School Committee Association, and that will go out on a mailing of, I think, somewhere around 1,600 tomorrow to current superintendents, assistant superintendents, and administrators. We also have School Spring, which is, I guess, the new advertising site for educators. And you have a copy there of what's currently going on with School Spring. There's also going to be an advertisement in the Worcester Telegram and Gazette, and that will appear perhaps this coming weekend. We're going to have assistance from Glenn Kuchar from Mass School Committee Association, and he will be with us at our next meeting, where he will help the committee bring forward questions that they may want to include through the interview process. Once we have the close of the application process and we see what the number of applicants are, then we'll give some direction to the screening committee as to how many people we would like you to bring forward to us for a final interview from the school committee. I won't go into the process that's going to take place. I'll leave that to the chair of the screening committee to explain that. I guess the last thing I'll say in regards to the committee is I was originally on the committee. I removed myself so that we could put an additional teacher or a parent on the committee, and I'll remain in an ex officio capacity just as a resource and to be available to handle any of the public relations. All of the interviews or any statements that would be made on behalf of the screening committee or the school committee will be done through me as the chair. The chair of the screening committee and any member of the screening committee will not have any discussions with anyone in the media or anybody outside of the screening committee. You're all aware of the conundrum that we're in here in trying to bring a new superintendent into the district. It's imperative that we get it right this time. We can't afford to stub our toe anywhere along the process, and we must bring the best, most qualified person back to this district to lead us going forward. Having said that, it may knowing the way most things of this nature go in this community, I've been here all my life, become a somewhat contentious process. And I won't be a bit surprised if members of the committee are approached to try to advocate or to submerge potential candidates. I'm going to ask every member of the committee that if you are approached by anyone, either for or against, that you notify the chair immediately. And I don't want you to notify the chair of the screening committee. I want you to notify me as the chair of the school committee, and I'll make a decision from that point as to where we go. Also, along with that, and our attorney is going to speak to us all in regards to this, confidentiality is going to be of the utmost importance, and he's going to give you all the reasons for it. And today, with everything that's been going on in the community with the school system, we have various bloggers that are running their own sites and stuff, and everybody seems to want to weigh in and give some bit of information to questions that are asked. Not trying or attempting to step on anybody's toes or your civil rights or that type of thing, but I will tell you as the chair of the committee that I do not want involvement on websites, blogs, any type of public dissemination of anything that takes place on the screening committee. I would ask you, if you have participated in that stuff in the past, that you respectfully remove yourself from it until the process is over, and then at that point, you'll be free to make whatever comments you want. But I think for the integrity of the process, we have to work together as a committee. Our meetings will be in executive session. They'll open in public session. We'll go to executive session. It's of utmost importance that it's kept that way. The people that will be coming forward to us may have applications out in other districts. They may already be under contract working in districts that they're in now, and we cannot take any chance of compromising their positions because of information being leaked or being talked about out of this committee. I will have no patience for it, and I don't expect to have a problem, but if anything is brought to me where that should occur, I would remove the member immediately and appoint someone else. So I think that gives a clear picture so that we're all on the same page when we get started. And having said that, I'll turn it over to Attorney Moskos, and he'll bring us into the confidentiality agreement and the legal pitfalls we have to watch out for. Dee?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I just would like to follow up on the chair's remarks. The screening committee is an official governmental body created by the school committee, and therefore you're subject to the rules and regulations that apply to governmental bodies. The most important one is the open meeting law. You have to comply with the open meeting law, and you do have an experienced and well-known chairman of the screening committee who is a former public official, so that should facilitate the ability to comply with the law. The chairman referred to the need for confidentiality, and the law allows a screening committee to keep confidential the process during which you review candidates for the position until you make your final decision as to referring semifinalists to the school committee. The reason the law does that is that candidates will not apply if they know that their name is going to be public. In my own personal experience, I've had one person whose name was leaked, lost their job because their name was public, and their boss did not know that they were applying, and there were some hard feelings, and as a result, the person lost their job. So it is very critical that the names of the applicants during the preliminary screening process are kept confidential, that you do not discuss, as the chairman indicated, those names or who's applied with anyone except the fellow committee members. And you're under the open meeting law, so you can't deliberate more than, I believe there's 7 members, so you couldn't have 4 people come together separately at somebody's house and discuss candidates because you would be violating open meeting law. So it's critical to have the discussions in the executive session and to make your decisions in the executive session of who the candidates will be brought forward. After you complete your task, the confidentiality doesn't end. The candidates for whom you did not refer as semifinalists, their names are forever kept confidential. And therefore, you will not be permitted to discuss the candidates even after the process is over. Obviously, you can discuss publicly the process, how was it followed, and whether your experience, but the names of the individual persons or any type of reference to whom they are working for or any other identifying characteristics are confidential and should not be discussed outside the committee. We're here to support you, and I know Dr. Malvey is here to support you, the administration is support you, and you have a well-experienced clerk who will be available to assist you, and you'll have the guidance of the chair, who's an experienced public official. So I wish you well. As the chair said, this is probably the most critical decision that the Spencer East Brookfield School District will make in probably in a generation. And so it's critical that we can get good candidates and that you are able to refer people who could be considered for the job.
Attorney Marshall, before you conclude, would you just speak for a bit to the committee members about the legal parameters of emails, text messages, and...
The Attorney General who administers the open meeting law has interpreted that emails and text messages are the same as written communications, so that you cannot send emails to other committee members discussing candidates or send text messages, because that would be considered deliberation. Now, procedural matters, the chair of the screening committee will be sending you emails about maybe giving you resumes that you should look at before the meeting starts, or telling you that he's going to schedule a meeting on Tuesday night, or things of that nature. So procedural matters can be conveyed to you because there's no deliberation involved. That's under the jurisdiction of the chair of the screening committee. But substantive matters like the candidates and who has applied and who has not applied, that you can't, you should not discuss that through emails. Your discussions have to be in the meeting, which is properly convened on the relative to the process. The last point I wanted to make is that the committee has decided to ask all of you to sign a confidentiality agreement so that there's no question as to your responsibility to the district and the school committee relative to the process. So I want to join as the chairman to thank you for your service, because this is a challenge that is important for the district, and I'm sure you'll do very well.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Attorney Moskos before he sits? If not, then Snodgrass.
On this paper you passed out, are we going to sign this tonight?
Yes, so you're going to sign them tonight, and Martha Berthium will be the witness to it. So I'm going to ask at this point that all members sign them and pass them down to me, please.
Okay, thank you. Date,
24th.
thank you.
Martha, could you contact Amanda tomorrow and see if she can stop in and sign one and stuff? And thank you. And I will now vacate, and Mr. O'Connor will take over from here. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item on the agenda that was provided is the organization of the committee. And I'd like to suggest to the committee is the election of a vice chair. I have every anticipation of being here, but I think it's important in a governmental body that there be continuity. So if I go swimming and I don't come out, I think it would be important that there be a vice chair so this process is not interrupted. I have talked to the chairman of the school committee about it, and I think he agrees that there not be any delay. So along those lines, I would like to get the committee's feelings, and if there's agreement, open it up for nominations for vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, I'll nominate Angela Napkin, Vice Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further nominations? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote. Congratulations. We now have a vice chair. I just want to follow up on what Mr. Moskos and the chairman said about the confidentiality. I think the security of the individual applicants is critical to the process, to the integrity of the process, as well as to their own livelihood. There can be an economic catastrophe if someone's identification were prematurely released. But it also affects the integrity that we're trying to put forward. So I think that the security is important, but I also want to mention the accidental. I can recall a search committee where a member of the committee put some of his questions regarding a particular candidate on the roof of his car and then drove out of the parking garage. And it was not a deliberate breach, but it clearly was a close one after gathering all his papers up off of Franklin Street. And it wasn't I. So anyhow, I think that there can be accidental breaches and there can be deliberate, but I think we have to be mindful. So when those packets come in, I think you have to pay particular attention to the packet, the information, and understand there's a human being and a livelihood that's on the other side of it. So I just wanted to stress what Mr. Moskos and Mr. Hayes had said. We have Mr. Kuchar from the Mass Association of School Committees that's going to come out and give us a briefing, or an orientation, I should say, on the questioning process and the development of questions for the candidates. And he is available on July 7th and July 10th. Next week being a major vacation week for most of the people. I would suggest the 10th in order to try to maximize the availability of committee members. We meet on July 10th and have Mr. Kuchar here for the orientation and the discussion.
I can do the 10th.
His plan, Mass Association of School Committees, is that he would be delivering to me the package of applicants, the resumes, approximately August 17th. So as far out as that may seem, it doesn't leave a lot of time for the development of questions, making sure that they're properly context, properly framed, that equal opportunity is considered. So if we spend the time with Mr. Kuchar developing the questions ourselves, getting his orientation, and then the middle of August, we'll have the packets. They'll be hand-carried to me, and I'll see that each one gets a packet separately from my hand to your hand. Any questions? Mr. Nordquist?
On the 10th, what day is that on?
I believe that the 10th is a Thursday.
Thursday, okay, thank you. And the second question, just as in the past, any package they received, they're stamped confidential, so there'd be no misconfusion. I think that we are still continue doing that.
Well, I would agree.
Thank you.
This will be, I would think, maybe a large package, but get a large stamp.
Yeah, thank you.
The place of the meeting? I would be at the same time for the committee to meet, I think 7 o'clock on Thursday, the 10th, if there's no objection. The orientation would be a public session all of the meetings will be convened in public, as Attorney Mosk has said, and then we'll, where the law allows, we'll then vote to go into executive session. But the orientation on the 10th would be in the superintendent just showed me the library on the second floor. There's an oval on the library that's air-conditioned, and it'd probably be more conducive to 7 people or 8 people being around the table. So it'll be on the second floor in the school library at 7 o'clock on the 10th, unless there's an objection.
Just clarification, is that open session, or are you opening and then going to executive?
That meeting on the 10th should be an open session. I don't see anything that would, I don't know of anything that would occur on the 10th that I know now that would qualify as an executive session. Sometime after that, I think it'll start. Kurt?
If we're going to have it upstairs, is there enough space for people going to come seeing it's open? I mean, we have enough space? Okay, I just want to make sure, okay.
Not quite as open as this, but there's plenty of space.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions of concerns or comments, objections? I'm sorry, I keep looking in this direction. Do you have anything else, Attorney Moskowitz?
Chairman, the question, actual question for you, that should be an executive session, since we don't comment the process.
The questions. I would agree on the question. The exact question should not be made public. Mr. Hayes, do you have anything to add?
Just for the clerk's purposes, are all the meetings going to start at 7 o'clock? She needs to post these ahead of time. Perhaps if you don't do it tonight, but the next meeting, you should be able to give her a list of the dates for a few weeks out. So she
Yeah.
can make sure that everything's posted.
I think we'll know better on the 10th, the future dates. My wish would be that they'd be at 7 p.m. Unless there's an objection from the committee, I would go with 7 p.m. and we can decide on the 10th the schedule going out. I think after the 16th or 17th of August, when everything is in, then it will be crunch time. Right. If there are no questions, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote. See you on the 10th.